Coming up on WUFT Midday, the House Speaker visits a coastline town that is struggling to recover after Hurricane Helene, what he offers as comfort for the community. Plus, Vice President Kamala Harris is on the campaign trail with a Republican. We'll tell you why the former Congresswoman is crossing party lines. Finally, we're looking at the end of the national port strike. Find out what this means for dock workers and the supply chain.
Watching WUFT Midday.
It's been 1 week since Hurricane Helene made landfall here. Communities are still trying to rebuild. This is WUFT Midday. I'm Nicole Borman. House Speaker Mike Johnson visits Steinhatchee to show support for the community's recovery efforts after Hurricane Helene. Johnson says long-term help is on the way, but the community says it does not feel heard. Destruction is costly for coastal areas, which depends on its waterfront rental units and restaurants for its community. The non-coastal area is also affected, with farmers struggling to afford repairs. Johnson says to keep the faith for those mistrusting the government to help them rebuild. Recently announced that the federal government will be covering 100% of the costs associated with the effects of Hurricane Helene. Our Charlize Ramos visited Keaton Beach with our team of digital journalists and found out firsthand what recovery is looking like.
I'm here in Keaton Beach, where you can see behind me the destruction and damage that Hurricane Helene left behind.
We need the help of FEMA, the federal government, the state government, the county.
I mean, where do you go from here when you've lost everything? So it has to get better. You know, this too shall pass. You know.
The federal government also announced that it will be covering 100% of the damage costs left behind by Hurricane Helene. In Keaton Beach, Charlize Ramos, WUFT News.
Maxar has collected new satellite imagery on Wednesday that reveals the flooding aftermath caused by Hurricane Helene as the storm swept through North Carolina. The space technology and intelligence company provided the first clear look since the storm struck the area. The images focused on two towns, Old Fort and Spruce Pine in western North Carolina. The before and after images illustrate some of the damage caused by extreme weather and floods. Private helicopter companies are stepping in western North Carolina, helping to deliver much-needed aid to small mountain communities cut off by devastating flood damage from Helene. The storm dumped more than 14 inches of rain over 3 days onto western North Carolina, transforming mountain slides into mudslides. Aerolux Aviation co-owner Brooke Branson says that the Tennessee-based flight company arrived on the day before, bringing a ground crew, fuel, and 3 Robinson 44 helicopters. Barzik says that they've carried out an estimated 150 deliveries comprised of water, food, baby items, fuel, and Starlink satellites. Each helicopter can carry approximately 400 pounds of supplies and aid. The Georgia National Guard has mobilized to provide response and recovery support to areas in the state impacted by Hurricane Helene. Officials say the Georgia National Guard is working with local, state, and federal entities in this effort. At least 215 people have died and hundreds are still missing since Hurricane Helene made landfall last week. Communities are still isolated, with hundreds of thousands are without power and a lack of service, making any communication difficult. Storm debris haulers will be picking up all debris, including small items in paper bags, starting next week. Officials say regular haulers will pick up reusable plastic containers. They will be starting in hard-hit areas in Alachua County. The emergency notification system will notify you when the pickup is starting in your area. A disaster recovery center opens today in Gilchrist County to help you recover after Hurricane Helene. The center is at Gilchrist County Fire Station 2 and will be open Monday through Sunday. The center is here to help you meet any needs. If you need any additional assistance, officials ask you to call the FEMA helpline or apply for disaster relief. The day before Hurricane Helene, I visited Cedar Key to report on the evacuation Levy County put in order. 1 week later, I went back to the exact same spots to see what was still left of the town. Here's comparisons of the sites before and after the storm. Many people have lost their homes and businesses, while others are still without water and power. The flooding reached around 5 feet higher than it did during Hurricane Idalia, which hit Cedar Key only 13 months ago. Even though this isn't their first storm, many residents did not anticipate the extent of Hurricane Helene's destruction.
Helene was just 2.5 times as much water, and knocked out these beautiful old windows. Thankfully, I was smart enough to move all of my equipment out, but like the water damage and air conditioner units destroyed.
Officials and residents are asking for volunteers to come help clean up the debris, get essential items to residents, and tend to those who may be injured. Today, Liz Cheney, a former Republican, joins Vice President Kamala Harris on the campaign trail. This is as we are learning about new revelations regarding Republican presidential candidate, former President Trump's efforts to overturn his 2020 election loss. NBC's Bree Jackson is in Washington with more.
Former President Trump heads to Georgia today to again survey devastation from Hurricane Helene as Vice President Harris travels to Michigan after rallying in Wisconsin alongside former Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney.
I have never voted for a Democrat, but this year I am proudly casting my vote for Vice President Kamala Harris.
Cheney voted to impeach former President Trump over his role in the January 6th Capitol attack. Vice President Harris appealing to other Republicans to back her, arguing the former president cannot be trusted.
He who violated the oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. And make no mistake, he who, if given the chance, would violate it again.
That after a new special counsel court filing asserts former President Trump should not be immune from prosecution for his efforts to overturn his 2020 election loss. The former president calls the filing political.
This was a weaponization of government.
Rallying in Michigan last night, he doubled down on false claims of a stolen election.
It was a rigged election. You have to tell Kamala Harris that's why I'm doing it again. If I thought I lost, I wouldn't be doing this again.
Voters divided.
I think Trump has destroyed the Republican Party.
Do you think that Liz Cheney speaks for the Republican Party?
No. Absolutely not.
Americans weighing the impact of the last election as they prepare to vote in the next. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
The UF weather team is tracking sunny skies today, but let's take a quick live look at our traffic cam. We are looking at our traffic camera on I-75 near Paynes Prairie. Traffic is looking normal, so make sure to get on the road soon to beat any traffic later. Meanwhile, the weather is mainly sunny for now with a few clouds. Here's Kara Rydberg with more on what you can expect to see this weekend.
That's right, Nicole. Right now, overall, pretty clear skies. Maybe a couple showers over to our east coast, potentially pushing in for our afternoon showers this week. But right now, our main area of interest is the Bay of Campeche with that low pressure, with this area indicated orange with a medium chance of development within the next 2 days. But as this isn't exactly expected to affect us quite like Helene did, as this area of low pressure starts to come in with that cold front. Now, this is the futurecast is showing the rain starting to affect us just a little bit, but really, as that high pressure develops and the stationary front kicks in, maybe a couple showers associated with that front, but the real impact is going to be in South Florida. Our 7-day rain totals are showing nearly 7 inches from Sarasota down to Fort Myers, with up here in Gainesville 1.5 inches. Another area of interest is going to be our Atlantic Basin. Hurricane Kirk and now Tropical Storm Leslie are developed but not expected to affect us here in north central Florida. Taking it just a little bit closer to home, we can see our campus cam with a couple of clouds with a little bit of blue poking through as of right now, with our winds out of the east at 8 miles per hour and our temperature at 83, with our feels like temperature right around 90. Going into tonight, today our hour by hour is showing 1 p.m. through 7 p.m. That chance of rain, while low, still possible. 85 degrees right at 5 p.m. At 11 p.m. that temperature going down and that chance of rain being small. Our future cast for today and tomorrow, we see today at 1 p.m. a couple showers here and there, but really 9 p.m. we see the showers more to our south and north. But going into tomorrow, that rain coming right around 12 p.m. with 3 p.m. being the peak of rain. Pretty heavy rain over Cross City and Chiefland. But 7 p.m. those showers starting to kick out right around kickoff time tomorrow for our game against UCF. Our UF-UCF game, 12 p.m., partly cloudy skies right around tailgating time, 7:45. Those chances of showers being low, 82. Hopefully ideal conditions for the Gators. Our 7-day outlook is showing the temperatures being below average throughout the week. 85 on Saturday, going into the week, low 80s, high 70s on Thursday, with that chance of rain being through Thursday.
The strike on the East and Gulf Coast has come to an end after only 3 days. NBC's Nico Clemens has more with what this means for you.
ILA all the way! They never wavered.
And what you're looking at is democracy and the power of the people.
After days of protesting, no automation! No automation! Dock workers across the country and in South Florida got what they demanded. The International Longshoremen's Association and the United States Maritime Alliance said both sides reached a tentative agreement on pay Thursday and agreed to extend their current contract until January 15th. The news quickly spread outside Port Miami.
The strike is over with. We settled, we good.
And Port Everglades in Fort Lauderdale.
It would not have been possible if it wasn't for the men and women you see standing right here behind me.
Johnny Dixon is the president of the International Longshoremen's Association Local 1526. He says the news is humbling.
These are the ones who sacrificed, took the time off, didn't go to work, just said that, you know, we demanded a fair contract.
So many of the people you see right here, they've stood outside the port for the last several days. They're all wearing shirts like this. If it's a fight they want, it's a war they're going to get.
Still have to fight for what you want, what you deserve, what you know you're worth.
Dock workers demanded a fair contract, better pay, and limits on automatic equipment and machine control at ports. The tentative agreement ends a strike that started at midnight Monday going into Tuesday and appears to also end fears of supply chain issues and price increases. All the way! Their message was loud and clear.
They invest in people, don't invest in machines. Machines don't pay taxes, machines don't buy houses, and they don't buy cars. These men and women you see standing behind us, these are the economic movers.
County Sheriff's Office Lieutenant estimates more than $5,000 have been spent investigating school shooting threats already this school year. Since school started on August 12th, LCSO says they've received 4 or 5 shooting threats. The office has spent between $5,000 and $15,000 investigating these threats. So far, no arrests have been made in Levy County for these threats, but investigators say they believe this is part of a larger nationwide trend. In the past month, dozens of threats have been made in schools across North Central Florida, but there have been no shooting threats so far. No shootings so far. Before we go, one last check on the weather.
That 7-day outlook is looking relatively cool compared to our average 85 indicated on Saturday, but then the low 80s and high 70s as we go through the week, with that chance of rain being highest on Sunday as that cold front and the storms associated with that front come through.
Thanks for joining us for WUFT Midday. We're back on Channel 5 at 5 p.m. for our First at 5, and on Monday for another edition of WUFT Midday. We now join Sports Scene with Steve Russell live on WRUF Radio and right here on WRUF-TV Channel 6.